myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say to...
Good evening, welcome to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith. It is the three amigos, Steve Hasty, Mitch and Keith joining me tonight. And we make no excuse once again, just paying our respects to Her Royal Highness, the Queen, who sadly passed away yesterday at the age of 96 after 70 years on the throne. And the news broke last night when we were on live with Supermac and with Gibbo. And the show has been put forward a little bit tonight by an hour because we do appreciate that a lot of people will probably going to watch King Charles III give his very first public announcement speech, whatever you want to call it, at 6 o'clock on the TV. So thanks to those of you who's joined in. Thanks very much to the lads as well. And obviously our thoughts are with the royal family. And Steve, let's start just with the passing of the Queen. It's monumental, isn't it? I mean, you know, we're all of that age group where, you know, this is the only monarch that we've ever known.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, 70 years on the throne, you know, 70 years as our monarch. Absolutely amazing. Lived to 96. Did it with such stoicism, such an iconic, probably the most iconic woman in the world, known to everyone. It was interesting that I was listening to President Macron, you know, our foes over in France, and the way that he referred to it was, you refer to her as our Queen, we refer to her as the Queen. And I think that goes for an awful lot of people around the world. She was the Queen. Very, very sad. But now we have a king. We move on. We've now got to sing "God Save the King" rather than "God Save the Queen." But I think our thoughts at this moment in time are with the members of the royal family, because let's face it, that's what they are. They're a family, and they're going through grief like anyone else would.
Yeah. Keith, I've seen some of your posts up on Twitter, and it's hit us all in different ways. I mean, for me, you know, losing my mother this year was something that I can relate to now with the royal family. You know, it's not a pleasant situation to be in, and death, we all deal with it in different ways. And there's something unique, I guess, with the royal family because we all feel as if we know them. I mean, the outpouring of grief when Diana passed away, when Prince Philip passed away, and now with the Queen, it's we all handle it different ways, and it all makes us reflect, I guess, on our own personal lives when things like this happen.
It does. I mean, I sort of didn't expect it, and when it came through yesterday, I was rocked. And I know when you ask your mum, Steve, that everybody looks at people like you and your brother, and you know, sympathies go to you straight away, and you think, is anything you can do for these people? You think to yourself, you know, it's heartbreaking. It's hard to watch somebody hurting over the people they love. But the best summary on this lady is she was like everybody's grandmother. You know, she was like, so you know, you listen to people talk about her, and you look at a new prime minister installed 2 days ago, and the average, maybe not the average, but a lot of Britons thinking, right, what can we have to go at her about? And then she's thrust in a meeting 2 days ago with the Queen, and was the last official engagement the woman ever made was to appoint a new MP. And then 2 days later, she's got to stand up in Downing Street and speak to the nation about what a wonderful person we've lost. What a hell of a hard speech it was for Liz Truss. You know, whether you like it or not, what a extremely hard, pressurized thing to do. And how well she did it, you know, whatever you think. I just stood at the end of it and thought, how the hell she's got through that? But the Queen was the ultimate presence. So when I was a kid, we used to go York races, and when you're in there, people just looked and said, "The Queen's here." It didn't have to say anything else, and nobody else in history had that kind of presence. You know, you talk about famous people like Elvis is in the building and things like that, but when the Queen's here, it meant everything. And 96-year-old, and she's probably suffered in her 90s more family stress than most people suffer in a lifetime, and did it with a strength and a determination. And I'm sure some choice words where nobody could hear, but a sense of loyalty and a sense of charisma and a sense of class when she was in the public eye. And You know, not many women in their lifetimes would suffer 2 incidents that she suffered in the last 3 or 4 years. And you know, is this one invited? Is that one invited? And it becomes more like our lives when it becomes a little bit of a soap opera, and you think, "Oh God, it could only happen to her or him or whatever." But when you think she's the most noble person in our lifetimes, the family traumas she suffered in the last few years, you know, a 90-year-old shouldn't suffer, but she did it with great dignity. And the word that keeps coming to me is humility. She's got so much class, just a massive presence. And I just think the world is a poorer place today because we're richer for having known her, and British people are lucky for having had her at the head of our country. But you know, you see people talk about COVID, and you talk about things like I don't know, all the spats, you know, and all the different things people follow. There's people argue on religion and race and things like that. But the Queen just led us through all that. She never complained, and no matter how bad it got, she never shirked away from doing it. And I think when Prince Philip died, she had every right to say, you know, I've done my stint, I've done me fill. Maybe it's time for me to go. At that age, but she didn't. She must have realised the monarchy needed her, and it needed the strength of her character to carry it on. And I honestly do believe that Prince Charles has served a hell of an apprentice. You know, 73-year-old to learn your trade and then to go forward. And I think he's probably of the same ilk. I think he's probably thinking it's just too much to throw into William, so he'll go in as King Charles III, and God bless him. You know, I hope he does well. But I'm a royalist. I've always been patriotic. I just am what I was born, really. I don't divide. I don't move detail from what I was brought up as. And we were always brought to respect the royal family, and the love for that woman is massive. And she'll never be replaced. And the class she can show when she can go and shake hands with people that bombed their own family is just a massive tribute to a woman. And we're lucky having had her. But we all pull it today now that we haven't got it. And I just hope people rally, and I hope people can go somewhere to living up to what she created.
Yeah, great words, and lots of lovely words coming in the chat as well. And I think it's only right for us to start the show like this because it's still a big shock to the nation. We all knew it was coming. Nobody lives forever, although it did feel as if the Queen could live forever. But Mitch, for you, again, when these things happen, you're watching, from a different part of the world. I often feel for you in these circumstances, whether it be football or things in life, because you must feel separated from it in a lot of ways. But then when you see the scenes outside Buckingham Palace today, and King Charles III getting out of his car and going up to greet the public and speaking to people, and the love and the adoration shown by people, I've got to be honest, with the exception of mobile phones, which I did make a tweet about, it did make me have that proud to be British moment again, and proud to be English, because there was a cosmopolitan of people standing there as well, all different nations, nationalities were at the front of those barriers wanting to shake Prince Charles's hand, and it made me proud to be in this country. And I've got to be honest, I haven't felt like that for a long time. And as Richard Hawley says, the Queen did really make Britain great.
Yeah. And I don't necessarily feel that disconnected in this part of the world. You forget the links between the UK, the UAE, and other Gulf states are strong, and they go back hundreds of years. And so there is a special place in hearts here for the Queen, particularly with Sheikh Mohammed, the ruler of Dubai. That's joint interest in horse racing. And they were very close and very respected, and the Queen was very much beloved in this part of the world too. And I saw a lovely story about when she was younger, having the King of Saudi Arabia there and sticking him in a Land Rover and driving him around Balmoral, in a time when women couldn't drive in Saudi Arabia, and I think and blown the guy's mind. And Prince Saud, who later became king, flapping in the back seat, asking her to watch the road and drive carefully, you know. And so, no, I don't feel disconnected at all. And I think one thing that stands out to me about the Queen was she transcended a lot of the royal family. Whether you were royalist or not, whether you were for a monarchy or not, people still respected and loved her. And like Keith says, when she went across to Ireland, open a speech in Gaelic in Ireland, when everybody was telling her not to do it.
Yeah.
That takes huge balls, man.
And class.
And class, absolutely. And I think if the one moment in recent history for me that makes her able to connect to the ordinary person in ways that many other people in high places can't, was that moment at Prince Philip's funeral where she sat on her own on a pew and she suffered the way many families suffered, alone at a funeral without support, while other people in high places were taking the piss and having parties. And that picture, that one picture, says everything. That she did seem to transcend everything that went on with the royal family. While disasters were striking, when she had the Annus Horribilis, and then the amount of family trauma that's gone on in recent history, she seemed to transcend it all and just be the hand on the tiller that steered it all through and kept that dignity. It kept the respect from everybody in the world. There's very, very few people have a bad thing to say about her because she was so dignified and respected and knowledgeable. And as my dad pointed out on Twitter, as a family, we had a most remarkable day when he was awarded his CBE down at the Palace, and that in our family history will live long in the memory also, you know.
Yeah. I'll give you an interesting little interesting aside, and we're talking about the respect that people overseas had for the royal family and the way that they think that we feel as well. My daughter was flying back from Glasgow to Dubai last night when the news broke that the Queen had passed away, and she was working, and a gentleman in business class pulled his headphones out and said, "Excuse me, you're British, aren't you?" And she said, "Yeah, I am." And he says, "I've just got some sad news to pass on to you." He said, the Queen has died. And she was like, what? And he goes, "No," he said, I just thought that you're on the flight, you're working, but I didn't want it to come as a shock to you. I wanted to let you know before you then carry on to the rest of your customers." And I thought, wow, that, you know, when she came up, when she told me this morning, I was like, wow, that shows you there's a foreign gentleman who's taking the time out because he knows that this may affect a British national on the flight, working and wanting her to realise that something's happened because he knew it would affect him in a certain way. And I thought that shows you that you know, we get wrapped up in the Queen, and we get wrapped up in our own little world at times as Brits, and we can be very insular. But it shows you that you know, overseas, and there are people who respect the Queen and understand what the Queen means to people back in the UK, and had the decency and fortitude and foresight to do that. I thought that was really much. She was very touched by it, very touched indeed.
Obviously, when these occasions happen, and thankfully they're not on a regular basis, but the sporting world has to make a decision, and fixtures have been called off this weekend. And I can see already in the chat that it's, you know, not a divide, it's just a difference in opinion. You know, Rachel thinks it's the right thing to do: cancel the games, cancel the fixtures. Tom says, very poor decision to postpone, especially when other sports go ahead. No fixtures were cancelled when, you know, George IV or V died. Let people come together and respect minutes silence. And also Andrew Hoggins says the matches should have went ahead, in my view. The Queen kept working at the end. She would have respected the business as usual approach. So it's mixed opinions on this. And of course, the Great North Run. You know, the huge Northeast event, which I'm doing this year, of course, on Sunday for the Bradley Lowry Foundation, is going ahead. And, you know, the big boxing match that everyone was talking about this weekend, Savannah Marshall, of course, is off. Boxing board have decided to cancel it. Now, I read the statement that came from government, and it was at the discretion, and this was with the blessing of the royal family, that they didn't expect people to call off, any sporting fixtures. It was at the discretion of the promoter or the people who were putting on these events. So, they did have a little bit of leeway. Has Masters done the right thing, or hasn't he done the right thing as far as you're concerned on this one, Steve?
He's froze.
Yes, I thought he was taking a lot sharp intake of breath.
So did I.
Keith, what about you? What's your views on stopping the matches this weekend?
For me, it's a no-brainer. I think it would have presented, as somebody in the chat said, a great opportunity to come along and pay. It brings a crowd of people together. So if you put 50,000 people in the stadium, sometimes it's a tremendous tribute to people. But I think that can come at the time of a funeral. I think we can do that the next time we do meet up to play. But as far as cancelling games, this is far greater than football. This is far greater than sport. This is monumentally massive. And as guys, it's quite close to me. Friel Mags have said, our kids, our grandkids will all learn from this. It's an education for these people, to go to school next week and sit down and learn more about why she was so special. And there's plenty of time to play football. If you can cancel football for the winter or over Christmas for a World Cup that was given under dubious circumstances to people who probably wouldn't have won a bid, you can cancel it for the greatest woman of our time. And if people saying they've got hotels booked, this, that, and that, it'll be a testimony to the hotel groups who allow people, football fans with bookings, to move them to the date when the fixture's rearranged. That's what good hotel groups should be doing. And if people don't do that, you shouldn't be booking them hotel groups again. But to turn around and I don't think any football fans would say, well, football's more important. I just think they're aware that it causes a lot of difficulty. But really, it's such an unforeseen circumstance. I mean, for me, being a football fan, the thing that's moved me more than cancelling fixtures is.
Who's that?
I don't know. It might be mine. I don't know.
It's definitely not mine.
My phone's not here. But what I was going to say is the big thing I've seen, it was, I saw something where footballers were debating, like one footballer was debating whether people should or should not mourn, and I just thought that was incredible. That's hit Twitter like rocket fuel tonight, and that's.
I am going to come on to social media in the next point, so let's keep your thoughts on that for that one. Okay. But Steve, you froze sadly. We thought you were taking a big intake of breath, but your views on the cancellation of the fixtures over the weekend?
It's the right decision to make because it's about showing respect to a lady who devoted her entire life to the country. I think the Premier League got this one right. I think that the ECB got it wrong. The ECB could have done what they did with that test match against India, which ended up getting played only a couple of months ago. But instead, they've decided to go for a 3-day test, which is ridiculous. I mean, they lost first day for rain. The second day was suspended. And they're just chasing the money, quite honestly. And it's the same with the rugby union. We know the financial difficulties that the clubs have at the moment because of complete and utter shambolic mismanagement of their finances. And they're chasing the money as well. They don't want to cancel games, probably not even paying the insurance now for something that would have given them a return if for a postponement. I think it's the right decision to be made. I agree with Keith and everything he's saying there about fitting in the fixture later on. I listened to a guy on the radio earlier said that there's no reason why these fixtures couldn't go on at the back end of January. When we get to the fourth round of the Cup, there's a midweek gap. And most of those Premier League clubs, when they're in the fourth round, if they are in the fourth round of the Cup, would probably be playing weekend teams anyway in the Cup that week to give certain players a rest. So, you know what? This is about being respectful, and we take it on the chin. We miss a game, and Keith's exactly right. Hotel chains, train companies, just make a refund. Just give the people their money back, or honour the hotel stay when the opportunity comes. And that's all they have to do. And it just needs someone to have the gumption,
humility,
high up position to say that from the football authorities, and or even maybe as a member of the royal family, like for example, Prince William, who is the president of the FA. That's another reason why it's happening as well. The president of the FA, it's his grandmother that's just passed away. So all of those little things are all knitting together, but it all comes back to that one word: respect.
It's well done.
Mute, Steve.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the unmute button. My tea's been made. I'll be unseen shortly, so I'm gonna have to eat my tea. I'm certainly not gonna eat that live on air. But yeah, look, the lads are right, Mitch, and I'll put my head above the parapet on this 100%. Postponement of all games this weekend was the right thing to do. I can understand why the Great North Run has got to go ahead, because this is it's not a fun run. This is a serious run where up to £25 million could be raised for charity over the weekend. And at this moment in time, the charities need every single bit of help they can get because of the cost of living crisis, because people can't afford to donate what they could donate 2 or 3 years ago. So it's, there is a fine line. I think the boxing being off, I can see Barry Cope there saying he was supposed to be going to boxing, but that was the right decision in the end. Been rearranged now, I think, for the 15th of October or around about then. Yep. It's the right thing to do. And if it's off next weekend as well, then so be it. The funeral, I would imagine, is either going to be either Friday or Monday. And that's where we're at. Unfortunately, this is a momentous occasion, as Ian Hull says. And football is football. It's not the be-all and end-all. It's the right decision. And I agree, Ian. Mitch, your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I've also been reminded, by the way, thanks, mate, that the UAE actually have declared 3 days of mourning here as well. So there you go. That gives you the idea of the connection between the countries. With regards to fixture cancellation, the other thing you've got to take into account is policing. And policing is going to be stretched in London to its far ends this weekend. And so if you can't guarantee safe policing at a match, the match shouldn't go ahead. And that certainly affects us travelling to West Ham. I think it's a really difficult decision that they've got to make, but in some respects I think they have made the right decision. I think 1 week to cancel it, yes. My initial thoughts were no, they wouldn't cancel because of the difficulties of rescheduling, because the schedule's already also overtipped because of the World Cup and things are crammed in here and there. But certainly one cancellation is not a big issue. I think if next week goes as well, I think that gives the organisers and the ability to reorganise the fixtures a big headache to do 2 weeks. But if that's what it is, that's what it is. These are absolutely unprecedented times. We've got nothing else to follow. Looking back at what happened in the 50s doesn't really apply in the modern world. And some people would say, yeah, so in the modern world, why can't everything go ahead? I think you're quite right, Steve. I think ECB have got it disastrously wrong for me. But then again, the ECB are not my favourite people at the best of times anyhow. I think certain things like the Great North Run, it's not like you can just up and reschedule that. That I think is fair enough. But I think for 1 weekend and one game of football, and look on the bright side, it's for once with a decision like this we're actually gaining a benefit. I mean, I wouldn't surprise me to see David Moyes in an interview soon whinging, saying that we can't play the players that weren't available on that weekend.
Little type.
Oh, aye. So if there's a silver lining to be found, let's look at that. We've got another week for players to recover who might not have made the game.
Oh, Christ, don't tweet that, Mitch.
Oh, I know, it's a cynical thing to say, obviously. It's a good counterpoint, though, to some people who are, saying, oh, games have got to go ahead. Well, no, I don't think they do, and I think that is the right thing to do.
Yeah, you said something
Sorry, Steve.
As well. You said about it's different to what it was in the 50s. You know what? It's not just different, but back in 1948, I think it was it 1948 when the king died? and then or 52, I can't remember.
I
Then
wasn't there. I wasn't around, Steve. Then it's just
you probably were. But
tell us
we
about
were
it.
lucky. The
Steve, tell
people
us
in
about
those
it.
days were lucky to actually find out that the king had died. You know, there was no social media, there was no TV or anything like that of that nature, and it was all stage managed. And you know, I think if I remember right, reading about it, the king died, and then there was a decision made the following day to inform the country how would the company cope and handle this monumental situation. You know, so you were lucky to even find out now with the way it's been done. And yes, it was slightly stage managed because you know the Queen actually died a couple of hours earlier, and then you know we found the rest of the country finds out at 6:30. But it wasn't a day and it wasn't 2 days or anything like that, you know. So it's totally different times. It's a totally different era, with so much more to it than just the cancellation or just the death.
But I can understand how difficult the decision has been. You know, I really can. And I wouldn't have liked to be put in the position to make the decision personally.
No.
You know, because you know I can see things through a fan's view. Someone who's laid out for tickets and trains and hotels and everything's already organised, and there's no guarantee because you would hope that companies would show the same level of grace that the Queen showed through her life, and say, right, here's the refund, or we'll honour that, or we'll give you something in lieu of that, and we'll make sure everything's okay. But we know cynically that some of these companies won't do that. And that's what we football fans have fought for years. And why so many people are worried and concerned about the games getting cancelled. You've got to understand that. And I think that's why I think for any of the people making the decisions, it's been a tough decision to make.
But put it in perspective, if it was the fan who's travelling's mother that's died, then they wouldn't have got the game. You know, no, but it's the same difference, isn't it? Somebody significant's died, so it's cancelled. I mean, if the chairman of a football club died or the manager of a football club died, they'd probably cancel the game. It's the Queen. It's the figurehead of the nation. So you know, I'm sorry. When it comes to if you want to make a pecking order, that far outweighs any the consideration. But I think you'll see what kind of companies you deal with, whether these train companies, whether these hotel companies say, you know, it should just be absolutely across the board that everybody moves their hotel to the equivalent Friday or Saturday when the fixtures are rearranged at West Ham, and they move the train tickets that equivalent day. So whatever monies they've taken in for this game, they'll transfer them to another day. And you know, if they don't do it, you know, I wouldn't use them things again. But Steve, you know, back in them days, Mr. AC, did you have radio? How, you know, when you
occasionally, if you are lucky, don't fit with radio.
Sorry, mate. Sorry, mate.
This conversation. You never seen an orange till he was 8.
Exactly.
This conversation.
It's actually an easy decision for the likes of Masters and that to make, because the hard bit is getting the words right. The hard bit is coming out and explaining, telling people why they're doing it. And when you tell people straight and you go, this is what we're doing, and this is why we're doing it, and you just explain, then that makes the decision that much easier. It's when you come out with a bland statement, or you come out with something like the ECB have come out with, she was wonderful, blah blah blah. The game carries on, you know. And it's like, whoa, crass.
Can I give you an exclusive on the show? First time you'll ever hear this, it's the last time you'll ever hear it. Richard Masters was right.
God, wash your mouth out with soap. It's enchiladas I'm having, folks. It's not the easiest thing to eat, to be perfectly honest. And I'm a sloppy eater. I learned the only time I've ever done this on this show in 2 years, I left the mic on, and I remember people laughing and were going, "What the hell's going on?" They were going, and the lads are coming out, "Yeah, I think that much." And he was going, "Steve." The mic was picking up everything that I was eating, so I now know how to knock the mic off as well. But I'm halfway through, folks. I'm going to set this one in now in motion. It will segue nicely in because it does really involve, you know, the sad news that we're all having to deal with. And football. Neil McMillan says, "Good evening, guys. What do you think should happen to Trevor Sinclair after his tweet yesterday?" And then Tom Lynch has put, "Evening, I've had a run-in with McLaws on Twitter earlier over his very poor comments about Adam P. He needs help." Now, let's just combine it rather than focusing on one individual here. Twitter. we've discussed this on here. We've done campaign with, the campaign, think before you tweet. We've all dealt with some fairly horrendous stuff on that platform in particular. But I'm sure you've seen it, guys, on Facebook as well, and other social media platforms maybe that you're on. People really just need to think, Steve, don't they? It is getting worse. Before, I mean, politics, religion, they always say don't talk about those, otherwise you'll end up with a major fallout with people. And that's the case on Twitter. It's just human nature, which is it's amplified in such a horrible way by a lot of people on there. And it's happened again today, not just today, but yesterday. Trevor Sinclair, I'm not going to repeat what he said, but making it a race issue, the death of the monarch, crazy thing to do. Might as well have just written the TalkSport and said, I don't want to have my job anymore, because what he put was unacceptable and crazy to put that up there. And then, Mick, who I've got a lot of time and respect for, hasn't helped himself. I'm not going to go into the ins and outs, but, there's been a couple of occasions where things have been said on social media, and my honest opinion, I don't think he's reacted well. And I've reacted now by, having to call it, a day on a show that I really enjoyed doing with a guy who I had a lot of respect for. And I had to make that decision for NUFC Matters. And it hurt me, because I had a lot of respect for Mick. I enjoyed listening to his commentaries, and to see him in such a horrendous situation on social media and having to fight off some of the people and trolls that we've had to deal with over the years, just for sport, because that's what it is to these people. It saddened me. It really has. And there's nothing more I can say or do. I've had to make a decision based on what I've seen today, and that is my decision, and it's final. I'm sad to say Mick blocked me today on Twitter, and I don't know what I did wrong. I don't think I did anything wrong. In fact, I was, simply, ignoring what was going on, but you can only ignore it for so long. And my apologies, just on behalf of NUFC Matters, go to Adam Pearson and Alex Hurst. I've got to say it, because those two people have been the victim in the last few weeks of somebody who I've put on my platform. Nothing to do with me, nothing to do with the show, but I'm just disappointed. And if this is down to what Mick's going through, then I hope that he gets, the help that he needs, and I hope that he can come back, realize the error of his ways, and come back, and we can just start off where we finished. Because I would put my hand out to Mick and say, let's just move on, Mick, and just come back to the show when you're fit and ready. But you need to put things right with some of the people that you're attacking on social media, because it's not you, Mick. It's not right, and it's not you. And I really feel strongly about it, Mick. And I ummed and ahed whether to address it on the show tonight. I hope you're watching, and I hope that you listen to what I'm saying. I'll repeat it again. I've got a lot of respect for you, Mick, but I can't have people associated with a platform who are going to be that way inclined on social media, because I would be a hypocrite. I deal with social media in a particular way. I block people and I move on. I report people who go too far. I block them and I move on. So that's my words on it. I felt it had to be said tonight, because I know a lot of you will be expecting us to say something. We can't bury our head in the sand when something like this happens in such a public gaze. There's a few other personal things which I could mention, which I've decided not to. But that's it. So, Steve, social media, God almighty, of all the things that has been created in this, in the last couple of decades, it's such a great thing when you use it properly. Can raise millions for charity. You can interact with people who you'd love to interact with, who you'd never get the chance to. But it's such a poisonous weapon when people use it the wrong way. Yes,
absolutely. And people jump on the slightest little indiscretion, the slightest little word that comes out, it mushrooms into an absolute, mega blowout. I don't know what's been going on with people, but I just say, just we're all decent people, all decent lads. We know them all individually, and we know them collectively. They're all decent people, and when spats happen, they happen, and they can get taken out of context, or it's like Chinese whispers, isn't it? One thing gets said, and before you know it, the message at the other end is something entirely different. We've all, as you say, Steve, we've all come across situations on social media. We all use the block button, and we all just wish that people could get on and people could respect the other people's opinions and move on in the right manner. But it doesn't seem to be like that, because once you have a discussion, you've got to remember everybody else is reading it, and everybody else then has their opinion and then throws themselves into the argument or into the discussion or creates an argument from it, and it doesn't do anyone any good. It doesn't do that person any good, and it doesn't do that person any good. And collectively, all of a sudden, you've got an absolute mess on your hands. And I feel for everyone involved. As I say, all decent lads with hearts of gold, trying to do their best. And I've got a lot of time for them. And I think really it's a case of moving on, talking to each other in private and sorting whatever differences you have, and just agreeing to disagree privately and move on. And because that's the best thing for everybody in a situation like that.
Yeah, I mean, people asking what Mick said. I know some of you aren't on Twitter. Adam Pearson simply put out a tweet saying that with the postponement of the games, at least we'd have a chance of getting our best players back. And, you know, Mick had a pop at him, saying that it was disrespectful to the death of the Queen. Strange. Really, really strange. Keith, Twitter in general, mate, I don't expect you to get involved in, you know, the whole Trevor Sinclair, Mick Lowe's debate, but I know you will if you want to. What's your views in general, mate?
I've read it all today, and I just thought, how sad it all is. I thought, for the respect of the royal family, it would be better if everybody just mourned the Queen. And when I saw what was written on there, you know, I'm a person that does say what I think, and I think Trevor Sinclair's a monumental dickhead. I think what he wrote was horrendous, and I think he's knocked back a lot of people that's worked hard to breach the racism gaps. People that's worked tirelessly for racism in football, and it was like putting your head in an oven and switching it on full. What he was doing, I can't believe that he wasn't influenced by something or some intake of something. I can't believe a man could do that sober. The words he wrote, they were just too strong. And I think when you start making statements about differentiating between the colour of the skin of a person and what they do, you become a racist. Because if I turn around and say white people and yellow people shouldn't do X, then I'm differentiating. And that's exactly what he did. He said in his statement that black and brown people shouldn't mourn. And I think that's pitiful. And I've got a lot of friends who are coloured who absolutely mourn the Queen and who show great respect, but they live their lives by being no different to me. But when a footballer comes out, and when you look a little bit deeper, a footballer that's been charged with making racist comments in the past, I'm told, it's pitiful that he's on a show that people can listen into. He's doing a footballing show. I'm not so sure he'll be doing it much longer, but to come forward and make a statement about a 96-year-old monarch that was literally faultless in her lifetime, I've just got to say, I'm just sickened by it. And I just think that when a person makes a statement like that, they are making it tougher for us all to come together as one. And that's what the Queen stood for. The Queen stood for a Commonwealth where whichever country she went to, the colours of people's skins were irrelevant. You know, when the Queen travelled, she went and greeted everybody as her own. And I think she took the Commonwealth on with 7 countries, and I think they said it was up to 56. So if the Queen could preach that, deliver it, and act for it for 96, why can't a footballer that's had a good living out of this country? And if he doesn't want to mourn the Queen, if he was speaking for himself, and he doesn't want to mourn the Queen, then fine by me, but do it quietly or go and move somewhere else. Go and take off somewhere where you want to be. Because if you don't want to be, or you don't want to, if you want to campaign for a certain colour of people, not to mourn a Queen, you're creating racism. You're creating the very thing that people's trying to stop. People are trying to get people to just accept everybody as one. What gives Trevor Sinclair the right to do that? On the other thing, on the Adam Pearson thing, you know, some will argue the point that it's irrelevant whether players get back fit or not. I think it's a harmless statement. I think all Adam's doing is just say the point is, don't get chewed up because the players might be fit later that day. You know what I mean? You might have a full strength side out. But what followed after that was it just got vitriolic, it got bitter, it got Twitterfied. That's the way it is. It's just Twitter on steroids. And I don't know whether emotion causes that or grief. I don't know, but I don't think that spat that Steve's referred to earlier is as damaging as what Trevor Sinclair did. I think his tweet was massively divisive, and I think it itself was very racist because he was trying to lead a certain colour of person to act in the way he felt bitterly that he wanted to do. I thought it was vicious, and I thought it was shocking, and I think he should never work on British media again.
Mark making a point, he says, I don't believe in cancel culture, especially at such a unique emotional moment. Surely better to have Mick and Adam on to talk it out. I'm afraid that would never happen. And like I said, there's a couple of things which, I'm not going to go into too much detail, but there's a couple of things happened in recent weeks, and I just kind of, he's not been cancelled just because of that, put it that way. And he hasn't been cancelled from the show. He'll say he's walked away or whatever, but look, I just hope he gets well because he's a top bloke, very well researched. He's done some great shows on here. He's divided opinion. Of course he has, because he's got a lot to say, and that's what made him such a great commentator on Newcastle. He's very well respected amongst other commentators and journalists, and he's very well respected amongst ex-players. And he's a part of the Newcastle fan base. But sadly, what is happening at the moment is unacceptable on any platform, Mark. So, that is it. It's as simple as that, mate. Mitch, you listened in on all of this. You've had a chance to hear what everybody else has had to say. What's your take on it?
I think whenever anybody leaves themselves vulnerable on social media like that, my immediate reaction is, okay, what help do you need? And it's quite clear that Trevor Sinclair has a history of problem statements, going back to when he's lost his job on the BBC.
Very true.
When he was found drunk in charge of the Tesla, made racist comments to a policeman and urinated in a police car, and then subsequently lost his job on the BBC. It would seem that obviously life stresses has pushed him to another point again. Now, is it that there's a problem there associated with alcohol? Don't know. That's a big jump, big assumption, but it seems that when he goes off in that direction, something is driving it. Quite rightly, like Keith says. And unfortunately, when you leave yourself vulnerable like that, there's consequences. And the consequences, then he'll likely lose this media job now, and probably make himself a media pariah from here, which is sad. But then he needs the help that he obviously then needs to find the way back to, make amends and sort himself out. With Mick, it wasn't so much the having a go, it was the way the go was done. Personal and abusive, which in my experience is very unlike Mick. And I've seen that a couple of times on social media with him recently. And so if he needs more help in recovery from the condition he has been through, then he needs it, and he needs time to recover, and needs time to come back stronger. And we would all support that 100%. But equally, it puts you in a very difficult position as somebody platforming, somebody giving opinions like that, who seems to want to openly attack other YouTubers and other people. It's not necessary, it's not polite, and it's not a good look. And it leaves you with Hobson's choice, really, Steve. And I don't envy you that at all. What I want with something like this is to make sure I identify how people need help and how we can reach out to people and make things better. And that's what I would hope would come out of all of this, is that those who have left themselves vulnerable and exposed on social media get the help that they need going forward to make that correction.
Yeah, great stuff, lads. I don't feel like I put you in a position. We've known each other for years. We've been in worse positions than this before collectively anyway. But yeah, look, Mick, good luck with everything. Good luck with your recovery. I wish you nothing but well, and I just hope that I hope things can level out for you and you can get back to being the best that you have. And yeah, ultimately, it's awful. Today, it's not been a pleasant thing for me to do at all. And yeah, lots of people, having their opinion and being very respectful. So, thank you for your support in the chat as well. Steve says, on a lighter note, lads, I got dogs abuse from a Mackham truck driver at the traffic lights in town while I was walking the dog because I had an NCSL t-shirt on. So I gave him the 25 Owners No One Knows song. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Steve.
If you'd been black and white, not NCSL, you might have been all right. They might have clapped me.
And Andy says, what are your views on Dr. Cynics? Me and Keith aren't going to bother, mate. That's what our views are there. Ian Hull says, a footballing question to you all. Is this keeper we've signed the one who had a howler in the Champions League final for Liverpool the other year? Yes, it is. But believe you me, he had better games other than that. So, look, from my perspective, well done to Newcastle for acting quickly. And we wish Darlow all the best in his recovery. Now, as you know, on a Friday, I've got a hell of a lot to cram in. And with shows like this where things escalate and, things take over, I then have to cram everything into, the second half of the show. And we're getting very close to that at this moment in time. So I better move on to one of the regular sections, the Dear Met. The Dear Met, where we ask you to send in photographs of you meeting famous players or managers, past and present at Newcastle United. Now, I did tell you that Paul Charters, the former professional boxer of these parts, would be back at some point with some photographs. Well, he's certainly surpassed his previous efforts. First up, Bruno.
Wow. Nice one.
Now, I'm starting to look at this, Paul, if you're watching, and I've got a feeling you're standing in the car park with the Bairns before the match with Adam Pearson, because this one with Emil Kraft and the other one you sent of him on crutches, I thought, well, the last thing Emil Kraft wants to watch, if he's watching the show tonight, is him on crutches. But yeah, Emil Kraft. Jacob Murphy.
Yep.
A bit of a point at which game he was at.
That's a good photo as well.
It is. I think he's had a couple of pints by this stage, Paul, and he's managed to blag his way into some kind of VIP area by this time. One of Dr. Cynic's first customers, potentially, John Joe Shelby and Charters, I would say. But thank you for sending them in, mate. Absolutely brilliant.
Great photos, them. Really
they are,
good.
And bits of memory. A couple with his son on as well. But if you've got any photos like that and you want to share them with us, or if you've met Steve Hasty, perhaps, send them in to me and the lads on Twitter. The Dear Met. Great stuff. stuff, as always. Thank you for sending all. I mean, lots of comments coming in. And yeah, it's just a little reminder on Karius, who's coming in, the goalkeeper. He did have a head injury, and he was actually given it was concussion, I think he had. 100%. I think
he was diagnosed with concussion 5 days after the game, because they sent him I think it was Massachusetts General, which has got a specialist sports concussion department in it, for investigations, because they couldn't work out why he was missing certain memories from the game afterwards. And they said he had signs of concussion, but they couldn't see exactly when it happened. But I think he was clobbered by Ramos about 2-3 minutes before the first mistake that he made. And so, the likelihood is he was concussed from that moment. And the one thing I think Liverpool did with that, interestingly, was they always said, look, we're looking for a reason, not an excuse. And this was in the early days of looking at concussion effects on players in all sports. And that's why they used the place in the States, because that was doing a lot of work with the NFL. And sadly, it screwed the lad's career. It's that one bad game. The lad was at the time when Liverpool signed him was pushing Neuer for the Germany first team role. When they signed him, he'd been voted the Bundesliga Player of the Year. He was in a hell form, and then that one game they went and signed Alisson after that, and then he was number 2, and that was it. That was the end of his first team career at Liverpool, unfortunately. So he's no mug. One game shouldn't define your career. And if you look at him, he's built like a brick shithouse. Jesus, if he can't be a good goalkeeper, then there's something wrong in the world.
Unfortunately, that's the position, though, isn't it? The position of a goalkeeper is one bad game and you're tarred forever. That's the unfortunate bit. And also, one injury. There's the injury to Darlow, and it comes, and it was always going to happen 1 week after we got rid of Dubravka, and we can't claim him back until at least January. I mean, you talk about bets. I mean, I wonder what odds Joe would have given on with that if we'd asked him last week.
Yeah, nailed on.
My feeling on it is if you look at what Eddie Howe managed to do with Joe Linton, and I still think Joe Linton's problem was a confidence stroke mental problem rather than a football problem. If you can do that with this keeper, then we genuinely are getting an upgrade.
While we're talking about goalkeepers, Nick Pope came in. A lot of people saying, was he going to be number 1? When you look at the stats, and 0.4% save percentage, ahead of Pickford, who is our current England international goalkeeper. Is that probably one of the best bargains and best bit of businesses we've done in this transfer window, Steve? Because, I think a lot of people pointed at Trippier in January. And of course, with, Dubravka's loan deal to Manchester United, probably going to claw back most of the transfer fee that we paid out on him. It's virtually for nothing. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, it was at the start of the season when we said who would be first. And I said I thought that Dubravka should keep the shirt until such point in time as he loses it. Eddie Howe went the other way, and boy, was Eddie Howe right, and was I wrong? Because, first of all, Dubravka throws his bottle out the pram and doesn't want to sit as a number 2. And secondly, Pope puts in performance after performance, save after save, clean sheet after clean sheet. And an absolute breath of fresh air, watching him come for high balls, watching him one-on-one, the saves, using his feet for a save as well as his hands. He's dominating the box. He's quick release of the ball to get us onto an attacking mode. Everything about him has just completely surprised me. We knew he was a good goalkeeper, but we thought he was a good goalkeeper because he was playing on a bad team at Burnley. Boy, he's a class goalkeeper. And I'm absolutely delighted that I was going to say wearing a black and white shirt. He's not. He's wearing either a green, a pink, or some other fancy fuchsia coloured shirt. But, you look at those facts, and of course, Pickford's out now, injured, possibly out for a month. Who knows what he's going to be like when he comes back? Yes, he's probably, and he is, so let's face it, the first name on the England team sheet. But if that injury stretches for much longer than the 4 weeks it's supposed to be, that puts Pope potentially in the driving seat, especially if he plays for England during the the friendly internationals and stamps his authority in the England squad in the way that he stamped his authority playing as Newcastle's first team #1 choice.
Keith, your take on Pope? Is that the bargain of the summer?
It's a phenomenal purchase, 10 million. And there was rumour that he was going to be 30 million when he was still at Burnley. That was the window before we got him. There was rumour it was 30 million to get him. But before you go on to Pope, I'll go back to Dubravka. I've had loads of messages this week, and somebody said, "Oh, it's easy to say after Darlow's been injured." I said, "No, go back and look at my tweets. You'll find that I loudly complained when we entertained Man United for that deal. I complained because when the work they did to us on Henderson was shambolic, and asking for relegation bonuses on Henderson and Lingard. So they wouldn't trade with us at all, and then they come and take what I think is a top player in the prime of his career and take away for 5 million. So for me, that deal benefit a disgruntled player who was under contract and a club that wouldn't give you the steam off their own shite. So for me, I'd have just chased them. I'd have chased them away, and I wouldn't deal with Man United full stop. Okay, they've got no players I want, and I just wouldn't want to sell any of our players to them. But then when it's been done, and you look back on it, you can get wise after the event. What I would be doing if I was Newcastle, Darren Eales, Dan Ashworth, I would be introducing a clause where there's a lot of fans saying you don't want to keep disgruntled players. But if you look at the people we've had on the fringes, and I'll go back to one, a big one. Look at Cisco. How many years did we try and get him off our books? And we couldn't. And maybe people like Dwight Gale might have gone earlier. You know, when Ashley went, maybe they would have let them go on the salaries they got. But these contracts only work for the player. The player's got to get played. The contract is up. So why don't they turn around and say any contracted player at Newcastle can't leave until such time an adequate replacement's found? Because they need contract. And if somebody's got a pet lip on and put the toys out the pram, they've got to put up with it. Go back to Pope now. I think he's hugely impressive. Steve Hitchens just hit on it. I didn't know. Steve Hitchens just said that he didn't realise at the time that Dubravka didn't want to be number 2 at Newcastle. You know, none of us knew that. We thought he would just fought for it because we thought he believed in himself. And I think if he'd stayed, I think with injuries, with cup matches, I think he'd have got his fair action. And I think there is times in the season when Pope will concede 2 or 3 goals and they might say, we'll put him back out for you next week. But I was disappointed. But Steve Hasty, what is he doing? He's gone to Man United to be number 2. And are you saying the Pope's better than De Gea? Because a lot of that people would argue he's not. A lot of people say De Gea is probably one of the best in the top 2 in the league. So he's gone there probably to pay more of a number 2. So it's very hypocritical of that. As far as Pope goes, I didn't think he was going to be as good as he was. But I've never seen a goalie command the 18-yard box, not just the 6-yard box. Yeah, I've never seen a goalie catch a ball wherever it comes as well. Or if he punches it well out the box. So I've never seen a goalie come out and attack the ball the way he does or gather the ball. So I'm mega impressed with him, but massively disappointed that if anybody decides they've had enough of a contract in Newcastle, they just hide the toys out the pram and they get a deal. Why? Or to Man United. Why would we do that? Don't get it.
Mitch, Pope, what a signing.
Superb signing. And seems to be getting better and better as well as the games go by. And he's given Southgate a real quandary to going forward, because that said, even when a weekend when Pickford was in good form, Pope's outdone him again. And that's very significant, I think. Whether Southgate actually pays attention to it or not, that's another matter. But you couldn't ask him to do any less in terms of laying down a marker for national duty to say, right, this is me. With Dubravka, he's not even second choice. He didn't play in the European game through the week. He's third choice. You know, he's gone to Man U to be third choice, it seems. And that's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. And I think his little social media post, "Come on, boys," as he's watching the Man U game, there's a slap in the face to every fan who supported him during his time here. And so I won't lose any sleep about it at all.
Yeah.
And in terms of carriers, I think, like I said before, you shouldn't let one game define his career. I actually think he's an upgrade on Darlow, and with a good tailwind, it would be one of the most Newcastle things to do for him to get an opportunity to get in the first team and turn into Gordon Banks. It really would. Tell us a Newcastle outcome for this. He gets to running the first team because Pope picks up an injury, and then he's unshiftable
against Liverpool in the cup final.
He's stopping things. He's like a spider with 8 arms, stopping everything. It would be the most Newcastle outcome for this transfer. And I think one thing and I think it's been a mental shift for me since the takeover happened is I'm trying to look at all the positives of the situation, not just the negatives. And we've got somebody who may feel inside himself, I've got an opportunity to prove myself here. I'll prove everybody at Liverpool wrong. I'm going to prove all the doubters wrong. I believe he went to Besiktas on loan, played really, really well, and then ended up going back to Liverpool because Besiktas had stopped paying his wages. And then he had a loan spell at Union Berlin in Germany. And I think let's. I like the idea of somebody who's got a bit of hunger in them, and if he's got that, welcome on board. And if we're seeing an opportunity for him to play, there's no doubt everybody will get behind him because he's one of ours now. And yeah, I find the Dubravka situation disappointing, but I won't lose any sleep over it.
I am laughing here because I've got a Mexican standoff after having enchiladas. But between my cat and one of these stray cats around the street, so I've had to have the mic on silent there because it's going and looking out the window. God, you get it all here off camera: food, cats fighting, unbelievable. Anyway, a big shout out and a thank you to our sponsors as always: skipsandbins.com. Telephone 0800 25 45 25 3. Email inquiries at skipsandbins.com. www.skipsandbins.com. Easy contract, free and pay as you go waste collection. Thanks to Darren Baldwin Funerals, based at 304 Durham Road, Gateshead. Telephone 0191 478 2730 and the website www.darrenbaldwinfunerals.co.uk. Thanks to Garden of Healing Dispensary, CBD hemp and cannabinoid specialists, www.thegohd.com. And thanks to 3 properties who came on board this week. They specialize in sourcing investment properties for their clients who are looking to invest in the Northeast. They cover a full in-house service from sourcing the deals to managing the properties for you. And they've done over 100 plus deals in the past 12 months for clients all over the UK. Give the guys a follow on Instagram, matty.patter_northeast property and phil.reed northeast property. You can also email Phil at phil@3property.co.uk if you're interested in getting a good property deal. Thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sources, and they are based in Cumbria. You can get them on 01768 210 102. Thanks to Media Art for all the help with the video side of things, and at qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wales and Newcastle, and the guys who run our website, nufcmatters.com. If you want to subscribe, hit the NUFC Matters logo in the bottom right-hand corner, and you can subscribe like we have another 100 subscribers this week. So thank you for joining. Hit the thumb up to like the video and click share to share to your social media. We're also available as a podcast if you're out and about, so get yourself onto iTunes and Spotify. If you're in the car and you miss one of our shows, you'll be able to catch it there. And if you want to become a member, click join under the video, or you can go to the website, nufcmatters.com, pay a one-off fee of £25, get a cup, a pen, a scarf, and a membership card, and become part of the cult. If you've got a smartphone, stick your smartphone camera over this QR code. It will take you straight there. We do give you something for nothing. We'll give you a car sticker. All you need to do is email john@nufcmatters.com if you subscribe to the show. Don't forget as well, we support the food bank on this show. NUFC fans, foodbank.co.uk is the website where you can make a virtual donation. Please make a donation today. And don't forget as well, on Twitter, we've got no bids for this. I'm not surprised. And people saying that your wife might buy it. I'm afraid you don't know my wife. She certainly would not buy that. And ultimately, It's a donation I need. If it's a £5, if it's a £10, this shirt was donated by Gemma Summers, who, believe it or not, wore it in an away game and got some funny looks, it has to be said. But yeah, there's one of them up for grabs. Minimum bid of a £10, just to at least cover the cost of the shirt, I think. And it's all proceeds to the food bank. So get on me Twitter, @SteveWraith. Make a bid tonight, and that beautiful shirt could be yours. You could use it as dishcloths. You could use it to wipe your backside. You could actually wear it. But whatever you do, don't let it go for nothing. Otherwise, I'll never hear the end of it from the lads. Believe you me. Okay, as always, we've got tweets of the week. Now, Zara, I've got to make an apology. I'd already loaded the system today, so I haven't got many of yours featured this week, but please keep sending them because you always send the best tweets. But here are this week's tweet of the week. Tweet of the week, where we get an insight into the mad world of Twitter, not just from a Newcastle perspective, but from a Chelsea one as well. We're delighted to announce that we've reached an agreement with Steve Bruce over the 3-year deal. It's amazing how many people get fooled by these accounts, mind. I mean, like 9,590 likes, but 1,300 retweeting it. Unbelievable. Those kind of tweets do make me laugh when they don't involve Newcastle United. I always like to source like a picture that I haven't seen or one I haven't seen for ages. Eddie, thanks for sharing this. He says he found a great number 8 for Newcastle whilst out and about in his time machine. Could be Man United at home, that. Wasn't many games where we used an orange ball. And I'm pretty sure that was a game that we won 2-1 and Glenn Roeder scored. Davy Mack in the background there. But great photograph. And thanks for tweeting that out. Alex put this: nothing could sum up Brexit better than wanting Diego Costa, but having to settle for Andy Carroll. That was earlier in the week when Wolves are reportedly looking at Andy Carroll if the Diego Costa deal didn't go through. Wayne Bennett says the new cabinet have assembled for our new government. Clearly not a fan, Wayne. And this one: Elton John has bought his pet rabbit a treadmill. It's a little fit bunny. Holly does watch this show still, you know. And whenever we get together for a match, she always goes, "God, you love a good dad joke, you." Dude needs to decide if he wants to be seen or not, says Jester.
That's a classic, that. I must pants with a high-vis jacket.
Brilliant. Just to come out with that tweet as well. Stephen M, she's finally finished it. Very good, very good. I got inundated with this as well after the transfer window. And Nottingham Forest have a new team bus. Very apt. The Chronicle doing themselves proud this week with this story. South Shields restaurant owner shares hilarious takeaway request. Ordering a curry, somebody put on the delivery. Can you not make the Danzak too hot, please? I didn't get off the toilet for a week after the last one. Cheers. Good publicity for his business, though. Well done, mate. Good marketing ploy. Specsavers were quick in on the Premier League. Are you free for a chat tomorrow? VAR. I got inundated with VAR tweets as well, believe it or not. Thanks to Ian for this one. Really feeling my joint today. And as you can see, his partner in the background there. She certainly is as well, but a slightly different joint. This one again, I think this is Joe Walker sent me this. What would the Big Six want me to do? This was, of course, in reaction to Newcastle West Ham, which, of course, isn't going ahead now. Give the decision to NUFC, give decision to West Ham United, and you can see what the final solution is there. I don't need to read that out. Stephen Kennedy, who provides a lot of stuff onto our Facebook page, he went, sounds like a cracking night. Just want to have a read of the reg plate there. BJ69 KFC. Thanks, Steve. Dr. Cynic from Out of Context Newcastle. Newcastle are pleased to welcome the leading aesthetics experts. Dr. Cynic is our new commercial partner. And then we have Shelby next season, sporting a rather nice Chrissy Waddle perm. Thanks to Jimmy Moore, who's been very active this week. Hope you're doing well, Jimmy. What I think when I hear VAR officials will be investigated by the Premier League. Then along comes someone to prove that you're wrong. Sophie Cochran put this one out. What's the first thing you'd like to see the new Prime Minister do? Mark, resign.
Resign.
Big fan of tattoos. And this one, I haven't seen this one for a while, lads, but this is resurfaced. Brilliant tattoo of Alan Shearer. Oh my God! I remember seeing that kid in the paper. I wouldn't show his face again because he's probably just got over the ribbon that he's had by his mate. But that is got to be the worst tattoo in living memory of Alan Shearer. That.
Would he have known about it?
He did. I think it was in the newspapers. I think it was
but the bloke would have been on his back drawing it. He did say there. What do you think?
Well, that photograph as well. That photograph as well is literally from probably his management days at Newcastle, isn't it? That was what it is. So I mean, it's not like a one that probably gets done all the time either. But yeah, strange tattoo that. And yeah, thanks for sending that one in. This was interesting as well. A review of the Welsh shirt. He says this is some review of the new Wales home shirt on Amazon. So we get to it. I bought this product to support the boys. However, the amount of ladies that have tried to sleep with me since purchasing it is in the hundreds. I'm halfway through now and they insist on making love to the tune of Waka Waka by Shakira. Highly recommend. Machine washable. Jimmy again. He says, tweet of the week, Steve. Taylor Swift writes whiny songs about all her exes. Stevie Nicks made her play guitar while she sung songs about what an asshole he is. And there you have it, the defining difference between boomers and millennials.
Exactly.
And this one was from Ronnie Burns. I saw this circulating. Liverpool FC help. Fans should not congregate in public areas and should avoid becoming isolated in areas away from the port area of the city. We strongly recommend you avoid the city centre. If you choose to visit, please be aware. Beware that you may be targeted for theft, robbery, or assault. And then Stig Martstein's reply at the bottom: are they playing at home? Barstool football, things that don't make sense. Everton and Newcastle's mutual hatred. Michael Healy was quick in. They started it. Brilliant. Brilliant stuff. This is the most vulgar character of all time. They beeped out every single word he said in Star Wars. I like this as well. I haven't seen this for a while. Quality tweet, which is what Jordan must put out every time he sees a tweet, which is quality. Yeah. Probably didn't use it much this week. It's got to be said. Okay, I did promise you a few of Zara's. This one, Colin Bestford. When the PGMO admit they were wrong to disallow Newcastle's goal, and then you realise you didn't get the 2 points you've been robbed off. Very subtle. A Stew of this parish, VAR, very atrocious refereeing.
Great, right.
Jamie Smart says, Twitter watching the new Prime Minister being announced, whichever one it is. Great stuff. Have we got one more? Yes, we have. This is the winner. Sean Dyche walking into the Chelsea dressing room. Name and position. Mark Cucurella, left wing back. You're Mark Cook now on your left back. Brilliant stuff. Thanks to everybody who sent them in. Sorry I didn't get them all in this week. We've got a lot of those, but keep them coming in. Send them to me or the lads on Twitter, and we will do our best to get you on Tweet of the Week. Now, last week, a lot of you will probably remember that I had an absolute nightmare because we had a big discussion about the clues that were sent for the Q-Tech competition that got sent. Now, this week, right, he's actually sent us the clues, but due to the internet playing up, it's took us an age to finally get the new clue added to the system. And it's doing what, do you remember what used to happen on computers when they were loading and it was spinning around like that and just loading and loading and loading? I'll get it at some point, but John, I have got your clue, so I will be able to read out clue 2. And don't forget, there's 4 more clues to get. And then once you've got all 4 clues, there'll be a question that goes up and it's loaded. So here we go. 2nd of February, 1903 was the clue. That was it, yeah. So I've just double checked because the one he sent us this week was also 2nd of February. So this is clue 1. Thanks, John. I already had that one. So you've got your first clue. Write that down. We've got 3 more weeks to go. And then we will announce the question. And then the first person in the chat will give us the winning answer, hopefully. Okay, Paul Gallant says, if no one bids for the shirt with your face on it, Steve, I will give you cash the 28th of the month. Thank you very much, Paul. That's much appreciated. And Paul, looking forward to seeing you on the show on Monday. Well, if it's a quid, it's a quid. I know I said ultimately it's got to be a fiver minimum. So he says he'll give us a fiver for it, which is great. I have got two of them, of course. One's extra large and one is small. So whoever wins it, you've got a choice of sizes. If you're a medium or large, you're knackered, I'm afraid. But
will the extra large fit, Keith?
It probably will, yeah. Might be a bit tight, like.
Built like a brick shit house.
Okay, Mr. Anderson, I promised I would ask this question because he did put it up last night, but we couldn't get a word in edgeways with Super Matt and Gibbo as usual. But I know you lads will answer this one. So, hi Steve, could you ask the lads when was the last time they saw a goalkeeper punished for holding the ball for so long, as in a free kick to the opposition? Last time I saw it was Shaka Hislop in Europe. So this, Steve, is the 6-second rule. Now, I don't have a copy of the Premier League rules to hand, and I haven't researched this because we've only been asked it tonight, but I will have a look. Mitch might have time to quickly have a look on his computer and Google the Premier League rules. Does the 6-second rule still apply, Mitch? Have a look while Steve answers this question. But can you remember the last time Steve, somebody was persecuted for this?
I can't. And it's one of those things that's driven us mad recently, hasn't it? Where we've seen goalkeeper. I mean, we do it ourselves. Dubravka used to do it. Pope does it. They catch the ball, and then they fall on the ball, and then they lie there, and then eventually they get up, and then they'll walk around the box with it. As you say, it used to be the 6-second rule. Before that, it was 4 steps. That went out the window, didn't it? The 4-step rule. And back in the old days, and there was nothing wrong with it, by the way, where the goalkeeper would just be able to drop the ball and then dribble around and bounce the ball and walk around. And I think the game was actually quicker when it did that, to be perfectly honest. But no, I can't recall a goalkeeper getting picked up. We see plenty of times when referees come along and they're waving and they're pointing to the watch and they're encouraging the goalkeeper to move the ball on when they've got it in their hands. But I can't recall for years seeing a goalkeeper penalised for holding on to the ball in what we all class as time wasting. And I can't even remember the Shaka Hislop one. I can't remember which European game that would have been. But it tells you how long that we're going back there. I mean, we're talking what would it have been? 95, 96?
Easy, yeah.
So that would have probably been. I think that had probably been the UEFA Cup, wouldn't it? It wouldn't have been the Champions League. But no, I can't recall the situation. But it is something, along with a number of other little idiosyncrasies that have crept into the game that the referees seem to overlook, like players that can't take a throw in, for example. Another thing that gets right on my goat and also gets on George's goat when we're at the match, because it's just one of those ridiculous things. So no, I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to help on putting a timeline onto a situation like that, unfortunately, Steve. But it does annoy me as well.
Mitch, we'll come to you because you were doing your homework. Does it still apply?
It does. It's under Rule 12, which is all about fouls and conduct. So it still does exist. It just seems to be not enforced. I can remember, was it Simon Mignolet at Liverpool? Remember, he's around about 2014-15 when he went through that horrible run of games when he lost his place at Liverpool when he made a load of writs. Was he not done for holding on to the ball too long and they conceded a goal from an indirect free kick? And that was one of the nails in his coffin at Liverpool, I think, if I remember rightly. That might be the last example of it being used from my memory. The last example in a game with us was against West Brom. And the keeper was punished and Nobby Solano tapped it to Shearer and he fired it in from about 12 yards. And that's going back, well, obviously Shearer was playing. I think with Nobby's second stint. So that's the last time I can remember seeing it for a Newcastle game, I think. Oh. But I'm convinced Mignolet was done for it.
Interesting. Keith,
apparently there's a goalkeeper who was sent off in 1977 by a Uruguayan referee, and the goalkeeper played for Ecuador, and he was sent off for time wasting. So I think it does apply, and I think there is a rule there, as Neil's aptly pointed out. But it's the same. There's rules in every sport. In golf, they used to allow there used to be a 4-minute rule when you lost your ball, and seriously, people take 8 and 9 minutes. You could pitch your tent up and put the kettle on. The time people will walk around the rough and try and find a ball. I think it's the same in football. But I think when Steve Hasty mentioned something, he did right, Steve. You get the ball and it comes into the stomach and then they drop over. And I think to me, that's part and parcel of the game. I mean, they were complaining against Newcastle on the Liverpool game, but they found out at 49 games played, it was in the top 20% of ball in play for the most time. So the whole argument goes out the window. If a ball goes to a goalkeeper and he catches it, falls forward and then waits till everyone gets around him, then gets up. I mean, what's wrong with that? Like the amount of times the ball in play, you've got plenty of time to score and do the damage. I think people's nitpicking, but I think get a yellow card. I've seen that at Newcastle, definitely. So I think if you research yellow cards given to goalkeepers, I think I've seen that both for Newcastle goalies and opposition goalies for time wasting, yellow card, but I haven't seen a red.
Yeah, is that been when the goalkeeper has been wanting to take a goal kick and he's gone to the other side and then he's decided to have a chat with the ball boy and all that?
Yeah.
Not when he's in possession of the ball and he's just taking ages and the striker's going, come on, referee, and what's going on? And the referee's being remonstrated with. You never ever get that. The referee just waves his arms and tells the goalkeeper.
Yeah.
And you're right, the referee probably considered it to be part and parcel of the game, but the ball being still in play.
I think people's being booked for kicking the ball. Where goalies kick the ball away. So it takes time to retrieve. I think they're being booked for that as well. But I was quite shocked there in 1977 that some Ecuador had sent a goalie off. I mean, that's pretty harsh. But it is an issue. But I think it's an accepted issue. I think all goalkeepers do it, and I think that. We just accept. If your run breaks down and goes to their keeper, you accept, you get away, and he's got to get rid of it. But we argue here over a few seconds, 10 seconds at the tops. That's what you argue over.
Yeah, but they only do it in the last 10 minutes, though, don't they?
Yeah, but I mean, in fairness, you can do it, and I can do it. So it's just fair game, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's fair game.
Oh, it's definitely fair game. I mean, rules just do tend to just drift away, though. They're still in the rule book, but they just go, no one's doing this, so we'll just we'll crack on, and eventually they get filtered out, don't they? That's what happens. It is strange, it really is. But Mr. Anderson is very happy with the answers. He did like it. Gary Milliken says Steve Bruce started the 5-second rule. If he dropped a pie or a pasty or a kebab on the floor, he would use the 5-second rule. Very good.
I love it. Class, son.
Refs very rarely give a yellow card. Funnily enough, after all the whining from Klopp, a keeper got a yellow last weekend. What should become more commonplace when against cartel members? And ultimately, if you want high price, fast football, there has to be a little bit time wasting to charge the battery, says Dan. That's why I found Liverpool fans quite interesting. Haha, he says. Very good. Let's talk about the managerial merry-go-round, Steve. I think most of us were expecting Brendan Rodgers to get the chop from Leicester after such a bad start. But it's not been Brendan Rodgers. It's been Thomas Tuchel. And American owners, Steve.
Yes. American owners. 100 days in the job. We talked about it in midweek. A manager who declared that he didn't want to be part of the decision-making on transfers. He didn't feel comfortable with it, which was very unusual. A manager who it's beginning to look, and it's been commented a number of times, that one of the decisions that the club weren't happy with was when they actually did want to take Ronaldo, and he actually stood up and said he didn't want him, having already said that he didn't want to be involved in transfer dealings and activity in terms of the responsibility. But it seemed to be that you got to remember they got rid of Bruce Buck, and they got rid of the Russian girl who was basically running the show with Bruce Buck as one of the executives that Abramovich had in place, and they also got rid of Peter Cech, and there was basically nobody around within the club who the new owners could rely on, especially when Czech went. So it was coming down to Thomas Tuchel, but the body language of Thomas Tuchel for the last couple of games, starting with, well, it started before the Tottenham game, but certainly the Tottenham game when we had that little spat with Conte on the touchline, both during the game and after. His press conferences, you could tell there was something not right with Thomas Tuchel. There was something getting under his skin. And I think they've taken him completely out the firing line by firing him, haven't they? And it's an unusual one. But hey, I tell you what, they moved quick. Did they not move quick to get a new manager in? And I think that surprised a lot of people as well. But they've obviously taken a manager that we talked about that might not get a job. You know, I personally thought he was destined for the England job after the World Cup potentially. So. Massive move for Graham Potter, but yes, American owners playing around. Graham Souness's comments, wasn't it, that said that the American owners didn't understand the game, didn't understand football, which I thought was, you know, typical Souness parochial, you know, sort of stance that he would take on anything that's not to do with Liverpool or not to do with Glasgow Rangers, Scottish football. You know, if it doesn't fall into those categories, then nobody has a right to talk about football, according to Souness. So that was just par for the course, wasn't it? Having a pop at the Americans as well. But there's other aspects of American ownership that we've seen this week that we'll probably come on to at some point in time. Whether it's Burnley, whether it's Crystal Palace, whether you're owned by someone from Delaware or whatever. But in terms of Chelsea, they've acted quickly, and let's see what the next step is. I did actually see an article that said the loss of Thomas Tuchel could mean that at some point Lukaku could come back to Chelsea. I just thought the Chelsea fans who have been screaming at Lukaku, now all of a sudden are they going to suddenly start going, "We want you back, God, it's just a merry-go-round that club.
I'll ask you this as well, Steve, because Gemma's just asked about the rumours circulating with regards to Eddie Howe becoming England manager. I mean, the merry-go-round means that Potter has now left a pretty safe job at Brighton, it has to be said, where he was doing really well, to take on the job at Chelsea. I mean, a lot of people are predicting, including a couple of you guys on this screen, that he could be out of a job before the end of the season if things don't go well with this owner. But Eddie Howe, I mean, are we at risk of losing him, Steve, do you think?
You know what? I don't think we are. I think that hasn't Southgate signed a new contract, and I think it's more maybe 2-3 years down the line before Southgate. It all depends on what sort of a World Cup that England have. But I just thought that Potter, with another couple of seasons, I thought if I was Potter, I would have stayed tried to build Brighton. But it's very interesting that Brighton decided that they were going to take the money, allegedly 20 million plus another 2 million for the backroom staff that Potter's taken with him. Have Chelsea just gone out with the checkbook again, and have Brighton taken the money after they've taken the money for Dan Ashworth, they've taken the money for Cucurella, they've taken the money for Dan Burn, etc., etc. It's a strange setup that they've now got, and I feel for that club because it just seemed to be on the up. But no, I think you know what, if the opportunity came for England, it's really a decision that's down to Eddie Howe then, and I'm sure that the Newcastle owners will be going, if he's doing well, they'll be going, we don't want you to go, and we wouldn't give England the authority to speak to him. But Brighton were very, very quick to allow Potter to talk to Chelsea. I don't know whether it was a clause in his contract or what.
Keith, your take on the managerial merry-go-round that we've seen this week? It's never ending, as we know. Hasn't involved Newcastle this time round, though, thankfully.
I was sacked. You've got a manager for 100 games, and he's got a 60% record, and it was noticeable. In the 60% record, I think 64% of it was in the first 54 games, and 46% was in the next 50 games. So it has been a significant drop. But why give a man 200 million to spend before you sack him? Why not keep that money and keep your powder dry, and to a certain extent professionally piss him off by not letting him spend that money and keeping that in lieu for for Potter coming in. But then you look at Potter, he's in a safe as houses job where he's loved, where every day will be a good day, and where he's respected. And if Brighton are capable of losing a Dan Ashworth and a Dan Burn and a Tuchel and all these people, and then losing Potter, and they've lost other players, they've lost strikers to play. You look at them, you think, right, if they've lost all them, and they're still playing really good football. I mean, I think they're one of the go-to teams on the coupon because they're a really difficult team to beat. If they can lose all them people and still challenge just behind the big six, then good for them because they've got a special model build up. And I look forward to seeing that at Newcastle. But with this fella, he's got a £60 million contract. And that's obscene money. And a man in his lifetime, you know, if he lives a half clean life, he couldn't spend £5 million. And that guy would have got that year after year after year. Then he'd have got the England job and he'd got it again and again. And he couldn't have spent a tenth of what he would have made. So to take the money, and I think Neil will nod with this, is and jump into a poison chalice where fans, after 18 months of watching a man win in the World Club competition and win the Champions League, were applauding him out the door. The Chelsea fans were actually applauding Tuchel out the door. They wanted to see the back of him. After 18 months, he's just winning the Champions League. I tell you what a crowd of people there must be. What a sour, bitter football club that must have turned into. 18 months and 2 massive trophies, and you applaud someone out the door. But if you go back to that game against Spurs, there was a man who was under pressure. There was a man who had his head on the block. He didn't act like a normal, reasonable human. He was the way he kept hold of Conte's hand and grabbed him. He was, you know, it was something else. It was like what we've talked about earlier on social media. When people act different to their behaviour, Steve Wraith touched it earlier. He said, "There's a person who's always been good, acting completely out of character or drifting into bad behaviour." Then you ask what causes it. But when Tuchel did it, what was he going to do? Have a fight on a football pitch? He couldn't do it. And why would you not just shake hands and let the guy go? But I've got to say to Potter, oh, son, you know, you have to qualify every single year for Champions League football. And I don't mean in fourth. You need to be first, second and third, not in the qualifiers. So you gambling on your club finishing above Man United, Liverpool, Arsenal, Spurs, and City. And seriously, that's without anybody else challenging. That's without the clubs coming into fold. And I've got to say to you, if you don't, you'll be the next bloke that them Chelsea fans will applaud out the door.
Mitch, nothing ever surprises us, does it really? With managers moving from club to club, and you know, it doesn't matter what contract you've got. There's no loyalty in football, mate.
No, in my understanding is Potter had a number of clauses in his contract that allow him to go to speak to certain clubs, and a release clause that will cost him a certain amount of money. So he's put himself in a position where he can go to a job like this. Is it the right job? I would say not. Like I said on Wednesday, a make bold prediction, he'll be gone by the turn of the year. If Chelsea are not pulling up trees and looking amazing immediately, that these real owners will get restless. Bowley's come in, he's appointed himself effectively director of football, he's playing championship manager. His signings are questionable and totally fly in the face of what Abramovich propped Chelsea up, but that transfer solution was to buy younger players and develop, and that's how they balanced the books with FFP. Their problem coming up is they're going to have 2 difficult years if they do not win something this year and qualify for the Champions League again, because they're going to have to start balancing the books over the following 2 years, and that's going to be difficult for them. They front-loaded the takeover with cash to allow them to spend and make it look like it's all normal. It will not be normal from the next transfer window on for Chelsea, or whatever normal it is they've got used to. I would question the dressing room. Did that look like a dressing room full of players playing for Tuchel? No. Particularly in the Champions League defeat? No. And Potter's never handled a dressing room like that, ever. And I think that's a dressing room too far for him, personally. I'm watching it with interest because I think so far the new owners of Chelsea are making bad decision after bad decision. They made yet another one, which, like you rightly say, which large company would give the CEO £200 million and then sack him a month later?
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. And it's the first to be brilliant immediately, but to be everything he wants them to be immediately. It's not going to happen.
Definitely not.
I think the rest of the season is going to be fun watching things going on at Chelsea.
Oh, it's definitely going to be fun, all right. There's no question about that. It's going to be fun for Steve Brackley as well. Is it Steve Brackley? Yes, it is. Steve Brackley. Well done, mate. £15. It's yours. I'm not waiting around anymore.
Couldn't get rid of it quick enough.
Steve, just let us know which size you want so I can get rid of this out of my house.
You have both of them.
I'm bored.
I had some troll on Twitter saying, who on earth would bid for that for the food bank? The only person that would wear that's you. Bloody hell, man. How mate? I wouldn't even wear that. I'd stick me pretty green top on before that. I'll have to dig that out anyway. It's long overdue a return, that lovely pretty green top. Again, I've received a lot of lookalikes this week. Sadly, because of the system, it only allows you to load 100 images, and I haven't been able to get them all in. So there'll be some of them from this week. We'll be able to keep over till next week. The good news is,
all the dogs,
believe it or not, all of the Steve Hasty ones have loaded. So thanks for that. Fantastic, Steve. I can see you smiling. You know what? And so they should load after what you sent me this week. I received a message from Steve Hasty this week. Doesn't say who they're from. I think Steve's discovered the app that Albert uses. He says, I've just received this. I've received these 3 photographs, Steve. I mean, I'm not sure what that's supposed to be, but then it gets to this. And then the piece de resistance.
You know what he said? You know what he said when I sent him that? Who was it? Who sent you them? He was going to have a judge inquiry to try and find out who it was. Was that going to shock Tom Dixon? Not a chance.
I tell you what, Steve Hasty's finally got around to using his technology. Anyway, normal service resumed. A lookalike of Steve Hasty from Paul.
That does look
windy day that one. This one. Wonderful. After he gets in and takes that big coat off, obviously. I found this one after Steve sent me them on WhatsApp.
I thought you might have.
Smart meters. This one from Andy Cooper, 2 lookalike in Hasty Sport and some headwear. Look who's just popped up on Lord of the Rings. Steve. We've got a combo here. Whose babies are these from Albert? Brilliant. Last couple of them just to keep it going. That one just keeps getting used time and time again.
Regular, that one, no.
It's a regular, that one. And this one looks like Steve Hasty's raging with VAR.
Well,
brilliant.
Yeah, it was, actually.
Brilliant stuff. This one, I had to really squint at this one. Looks like Steve Wraith lived in New York in 1911 and Boris Johnson.
Oh my God.
Dear me.
God almighty.
Very good. Yeah. And this one, Keith's eating his tea on last week's show.
God, I get him.
Cool and Luke there, of course. Rocky Toon, lookalike I saw on Facebook. No idea who the players are, but even the sub looks like them. They all look the same. They do all look the same in that. Yeah, brilliant. And this one from Albert, who's this cute little ankle fighter? Me, Albert.
Right.
VAR office, Lee Mason and Stevie Wonder. This one's another lookalike from 100% Max. Tony Mortar from he's 17. and Alan Shearer.
That's a good one, that. Yes.
Yeah. And this one, Robbie Savage and Robert Rutherford, the 1905 chairman of Wickham District Council, who Steve used to go drinking with.
When they all had radio.
When they all had radio. Look alike, or is it a shadow? I see what you did there. Now, we've got a pretty good top 7 or so. This one from Dave Wild.
That's good, that.
Brilliant, that. Very good.
Yes.
Thank you for sending that, Dave. This one from Jimmy Moore.
That's
Bruce
correct.
Springsteen and Woody Allen.
Airy, that.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
This one, Liz Truss and a bin.
Yes, that was one of mine.
Oh,
Thanks, Steve. Sam Chipperfield, Tuchel and Afida Zayn Pet's commandant.
That's a good one, isn't it? That is.
Very good. He'd be working on the site from morning till night shortly as well. David Moyes and Alfred E. Newman.
oh my God.
I never ever you think David Moyes would do everything he can to try and get that off the internet, that photograph. It's awful. He looks like a smack rat. He really does.
I don't know.
Last 4. John Bishop and Barry Gibb.
That's good, that.
Wow.
Aye.
I like that.
Thanks, Milburn. Very good.
I like the dog's better, like.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
Top-
you would.
Top 3. All got a Liverpool connection.
Carriers.
Loris Karius and Thor
Oh, yeah.
from Jimmy.
Very good.
It was a toss-up between these two, but I've gone for this one as number 2. Ugly Campbell.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
It could have won, but this was a late entry from Rob Vasey. 4-1 down, and Klopp takes Mohamed Salah off. He doesn't look happy. Keep them coming in. I've got a few left over from last week, but as I say, the system is playing up. But please keep them coming. Please keep them coming in. They are brilliant. Always give us a great laugh, and everybody at home who is watching, and somebody else who gives us a good laugh, Elliot. I was asked if I was a fan of the 80s band Erasure. I said, ooh, sometimes. Brilliant, Elliot. Brilliant stuff. Keep them coming, mate. Keep them coming. Do enjoy a little laugh, as we know at this weekend. Luke Bailey, can some people please explain what happened between Mick Lowes and Adam P? I'm not on Twitter. We explained it earlier on, Luke. If you've tuned in late, your best bet is to tune in earlier on. We don't want to rake over old ground, but we did about 15, 20 minutes on it. So give it a watch when we finish in about 5 minutes' time. Jam says... oh yeah, okay, you're going on about that, no problem. From my perspective, obviously normally we'd do a chat about the game, we'd get the lucky dice out, but we've got no game this weekend for anyone tuning in expecting us to be talking about Newcastle playing West Ham away. It's not happening. Because obviously we've had the games all put off, and it looks as if the games will be off next week as well. Reading a lot of the stuff that's out there now, people saying that the games could be off next week, and I think it's only right. If the funeral's Friday or the funeral is Monday, then that is probably the best decision that anyone could make, isn't it, Steve?
Yeah, I think absolutely. I think we should find out by the end of the weekend when the funeral's going to actually take place. And I think then after that, the royal family go into a period of mourning that extends after the funeral. But I think that's sort of a private thing that happens within the royal family. But in terms of the fixtures, once they've cancelled this one, I think if the funeral is going to be on the Monday, then everything that Mitch said in terms of the policing, etc., security. It's a massive, massive event in this country, a huge event in London. And I know people say, well, it shouldn't affect us because we're in the northeast, but there will be police from all points west travelling to traveling to London for that particular weekend or whenever the funeral is announced. It's a huge thing. I mean, you're talking about 2,000, potentially 2,000 people attending that funeral just as dignitaries from foreign countries. You know, that the diplomatic headache that gives for the security services, for the Metropolitan Police, etc., is phenomenal. So it's going to be a monumental piece of work that needs to be done. So don't be surprised if next week's fixture is off as well.
Yeah, it's the right thing to do, though, Keith. We've discussed it earlier on in the show, but it is definitely the right thing to do.
There's nothing else you can do, and like Steve talks about, 2,000 dignitaries. There's a hellish pressure on the police and Secret Service. There's a lot of protection people needed to get that many people into a city and to house them. And when you put 2,000 dignitaries in a city, think of the hotel beds, think of the security in there, because for every leader of a foreign country, he might have 20 people with him. You know, he'll have his own private protection, and all those need hospitality. So you can imagine all of the high-end London hotels just being completely out of bounds. But then when you bring police in, there's not enough place in London to place that. There's just not enough, if you brought everybody off one shift, and then the next day London's got to operate. So the only way you can do things like that, like they did the Olympics, they brought people down from Cleveland and Durham forces, they brought from Northumbria, from Durham, North Yorkshire, and all those people travel in, and they apportion a percentage of their staff. First thing you've got to do is accommodate them. Where do you put up all these people? It's a monumental task. So what you don't want to do is have 3 football games going on in the capital that require, hotels and that for the visiting fans and for home people. So it's a no-brainer. The other thing I saw was where they were going to put the Queen's body, I don't, some state of rest in Edinburgh. There's going to be a period where people are going to walk down the mile in Edinburgh and can file past the Queen lying in state. And then they're going to take by RAF plane, I'm told, and then do the same in London. So there's a constant, and some people will actually fly in for that. Some people will come to England. Some people who will live abroad, expats, might return home to be here when that funeral takes place. So there's going to be, London's going to be a bursting point, not just on the day of the funeral and a couple of days after, but in the probably week preceding the funeral. So it is what it is. And as I say, I mean, I've got a friend that's flying from Australia over here for the Brentford game, not Bournemouth game. What's the next one after? What's the next home game?
Bournemouth.
Right. He's settled from Australia already. He's in flight, and we've got him a ticket for the Bournemouth game. Well, I don't say going ahead, mate. I think if West Ham's cancelled, I say Bournemouth being cancelled. So
yeah, then we're away to Fulham, which is the next fixture.
So he wanted the Bournemouth game. That's what he wanted. So he's coming over for that game. So I don't say anything going ahead. But it's funny, you were just talking before. You said people have tuned in and they want to see us doing predictions for results. If they tune in tonight, they think well, the football's off, but Crufts is on.
The Grey North run is on, though. I have posted the link if you want to support me. And Vince, by all means, stick your link in as well. I know Vince is doing it in the chat. Anybody wants to support us, I've just stuck the link in. I've pinned it to the top. If you want to sponsor us, I'm at £900. I'd like to hit £1,000 this time round for the Bradley Lowry Foundation. So please chip in if you can, even a £5, whatever. And Vince, stick your link in as well, mate. I don't mind you doing that at all.
Where'd you put that stay? Where's the money go to?
The Bradley Lowry Foundation, mate, I'm doing it for.
How do you do it, though, for yours?
If you just click on the link, mate, in the chat, you'll be able to donate directly. It guides you through it. It's dead easy, mate.
All right, mate.
It's dead easy. And Vince says Darth Vader. Yes, of course, you're doing dressed as Darth Vader. So I'm sure we will bump into each other at some point. Mitch, it is the right thing to do. We started with the Queen. We're going to finish with her because the reason we started early tonight is because we're going to go off and watch the King make his first address to the nation at 6 o'clock. So, it's the right thing to do, isn't it, mate? And we've gone full circle tonight.
Logistically, you just can't do anything else. It's really very, very difficult because the guys have said, there's not a lot to add to that, really. you can't have a situation where you cancel some of the games and not all of the games either. I don't think that's fair. Two, that's not fair in a sporting manner. I think it's not just about showing respect in the situation, it's also showing respect for the sport and integrity of the Premier League, and therefore if one game is off, as like the lads say, you can't have 3 games going on in London when all that's happening. Logistically for the police force, it's impossible. Absolutely impossible. And so you can't just say, right, okay, these games won't go ahead, but everything else will. No, that really does ruin the sport and integrity of the Premier League. It's going to be difficult to reschedule 2 games in the way the fixtures are at the moment. It's going to be very difficult. Puts more pressure on the clubs, more pressure on the squads. With the World Cup where it is, and with the fixtures list already backside forward, it's a real tricky job to reschedule 2 games. But what else can you do but suck it up and get on with it?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I agree. You know, and our thoughts go with the royal family, as I said at the start of the programme. It's a tough time for them, and you know, and we wish them all the best. But going to call a close to it there. Please give Vince, you can click on Vince's link. If you've already sponsored me and you can sponsor 2 people, please click on Vince's link and sponsor him as well. That would be great. We have got a new Food Bank t-shirt, courtesy of Q-Tech. John Beresford has agreed to sign this t-shirt. It's got Bez on 92 to 98. You will be able to stick that up. That's the Food Bank t-shirt. It will be signed, so you've got a week to bid. Get yourself online on @SteveWraith on Twitter and place a bid. I'll stick that up in the next couple of minutes once the show has finished. And Julie Baker, we never let you down. Thanks, Elliot.
Dear me.
Dear me. Exactly. But thank you. Okay, that's the end. And I just want to thank Bill Elliott for sending in a photograph of his brother. What a lovely way to finish. Keith Elliott meeting the Queen in 1989. Nice personal memory there from one of our viewers who lives in the US, and an amazing moment for him. And I'm sure there are millions of people around the world who will be looking back on photographs of a similar nature and looking back on some many happy memories with Her Royal Highness the Queen, who we sadly lost yesterday. But for now, it's thank you from me, Steve Hasty, Keith Patterson and Mitch. Have a great weekend, whatever you're doing, and we will be back bright and early next Friday to take you into the weekend. Take care, lads.
Cheers, lads.
Cheers, everyone.
Bye.